My name is Carrie Hoffman. I am a strategic advisor for Gabs Technologies. Before we jump into the webinar, I want to share some of my thoughts on what I'm seeing in the industry in the area of artificial intelligence and AIOps. This is such a great time to be a geek. No matter what function you work in or role you fill in your organization, technology is a factor. And I wonder, have you noticed, like I have, the number of mainstream advertising areas that have high-tech ads? It's really quite amazing. I've seen advertisements for AI in airport billboards, magazines, newspapers, and even on TV, which really surprised me. And that's even when the advertiser doesn't have the opportunity to use AI and know it's me consuming the media. It's hard not to be thinking the time is now to start incorporating artificial intelligence into your business. And at the exponential rate at which technology is advancing, I think we all need to become continuous learners to really understand the technologies that we're looking at. So the term AIOps, it stands for Artificial Intelligence for IT Operations, and it was first coined by Gartner. Given the recent surge of popularity of the AI advertising, many vendors are incorporating some level of AI into their products and or their marketing. The key is to make sure that you understand the levels of AI maturity and the questions to ask to make sure the AI that you're looking at and implementing at your company is highly advanced and it's also delivering on the promised outcomes. I had a sneak peek at today's webinar content, and I'm really excited and confident that this webinar is an awesome opportunity to increase your knowledge and understanding that not all automation in AI is created equal. So a little housekeeping. If at any time during the webinar you want to ask a question, you can use the chat window on the right side of your screen to post your question. The chat window is part of the Click Webinar control bar. And we're going to be monitoring those questions, and we'll definitely have time at the end to go through a question and answer session. So it's my pleasure to welcome our speakers for today. Ash Wynn is Practice Director for the Everest Group. He is a member of the IT Services Research Team and assists clients on topics related to cloud and infrastructure services and data and analytics services. Ashwin is responsible for driving syndicated as well as custom research engagements covering service provider landscapes and current trends across a broad set of IT infrastructure services themes. He interacts with a broad network of IT infrastructure service providers, technology vendors, and enterprises on an ongoing basis. We also have Rajiv as a speaker. He is VP Products for Gabs Technologies. He has over 18 years of experience in IT infrastructure management. Rajiv has been involved with various customers like StorageTech, Sun Microsystems, Oracle, Seagate, Bronx Care Health System, and many others, specifically focusing on transformation of IT infrastructure operations through innovative and disruptive technologies. His current focus has been on integrating artificial intelligence and machine learning into IT operations, and he works closely with the Gabs AIOps team in enhancing their zero-incident framework. So thanks everyone for joining today. Welcome speakers, and I'm going to turn it over to Ashwin.
Thank you so much, Kerry, for the preamble. Couldn't agree more with your market observations. Hi, everyone. Ashwin here. Good to be speaking to all of you today. So let's warm up for the session with a poll question that we have, and let's to kick things off. So we'd like the audience to tell us what is the primary driver or what is your primary driver for AI or AIOps adoption within your enterprise IT infrastructure strategy. So A, is it primarily driving year-on-year cost reduction? Is it more geared towards agility and resilience within your business operations? Is it about supporting net new business models and pushing new products into the market? Is it about enhancing user experience? Or do you believe, in fact, all of these could potentially be benefits through AIOps adoption? So let's give the audience 10 seconds to punch in their responses. Excellent. So as we have the numbers coming in, it's actually no surprise that all the people who have casted their votes, most of them in fact believe that all of the tenets that we had mentioned are in fact potential impact drivers for AI operations. Now, there are a few responses, of course, wherein we see business agility and resilience as the primary driver, which again doesn't come as a surprise because anyways cost reduction and an enhanced user experience could potentially be inherent benefits that actually come along. So with that, we really wanted to explore this concept of AI ops in more detail with you. And to do that, I first wanted to set some context by exploring the current state of IT operations within enterprises. So now rapid digitalization is a new norm, right, for within businesses. And this is creating a fundamental shift in the way infrastructures services are being delivered within enterprises. So we at Everest Group actually call this with the theme, make infrastructure great again, right? So, but to really succeed in today's world, so first, enterprises really need to be quick in responding to market demands. And then consequently, the IT infrastructure services needs to be agile, it needs to be fluid, and it needs to be really flexible. And at the same time, it also needs to be cost effective while providing real elasticity so that it can be consumed and aligned with changing business volumes and changing business demands. Infrastructure is also about alignment with the kind of experience that's delivered to internal and external users. And as we think of new business models, right, so we have a complete set of next generation applications that are cropping up. We have AI embedded applications which are now being adopted within enterprises. So infrastructure needs to really upgrade and move to the next level to support such dynamic application requirements within clients. And last but not the least, the idea for businesses to really thrive is to have the freedom to experiment and fail really fast. So whether infrastructures can really provide the rapid and elastic environments to try and test out products very quickly with the minimum viable product being pushed out in the market also becomes of critical importance. But herein lies the challenge. When we spoke to enterprises through an enterprise survey of around 200 respondents, more than 70% of them actually told us that their current IT infrastructure services setup is simply not agile and responsive enough for their business requirements, which doesn't come as a surprise, right? If you really think about it, now virtualization, cloud, DevOps, now these are concepts that have been around for quite some time and have gained prominence. But the challenge is there has been a significant sprawl that has come up within the infrastructure landscape. There has been a proliferation in the number of configuration items to be managed, right? If there's a lack of standardization, in fact, the TCO tends to increase. Now, the underlying challenge that forms the basis for all of this is that the systems are being monitored and managed still using traditional methods. And this is exactly why AIOps is becoming prominent and it's coming into the picture. So let's delve more deep into this concept, right? So now automation as a concept has been around for quite some time. And the design has been primarily based on scripts and standard runbook automation. But the challenge is that this entire design is very reactive to business needs. There are repeat incidents that are practically treated as new ones. if there are any upgrades or changes that are made to underlying technologies or platforms, or even if the business rules change, the teams need to again write new scripts, new runbooks need to be built, and so on and so forth. And at the same time, there has been no meaningful leverage of the history and the context that is there within the operations and the ticket and incident landscape. So therefore, it's very clear that infrastructure services need to become more adaptive. It needs to become more self-learning and as well as self-correcting. And then the idea here is the human intervention and effort needs to be more geared towards training and governing and enhancing the systems rather than humans really executing routine and voluminous tasks. This is exactly where the concept of AIOps comes in. So if you think of the intelligent automation paradigm that we show here, it's about leveraging analytics and machine learning techniques to bring in that level of adaptiveness that we seek within infrastructure services. Now, what analytics and machine learning do is they start bringing in real-time business and user context and then help us achieve that autonomy that we seek within infrastructure services. So the focus is not more just about resolving faster, but the question becomes whether even recurring incidents can be eliminated through proper analysis and correlation of past historical data that we have, and it's tied to the real-time environment statistics. Now, the concept of cognitive automation that we show here, that is obviously the next frontier, wherein we are talking about a significant amount of preemptive resolution of tickets that happen, and increasingly the system becomes even more adaptive, taking decisions which are more judgment intensive and more complex, right? Now, but why are we actually talking about this concept of AIOps? And this is where we'd like to spend some time. Now, if you look at this particular graphic that we have, so the fundamental difference between traditional automation and AIOps is that the focus shifts away from just looking at cost of operations or operational efficiency, and we start talking about holistic business value, right? If we start applying AIOps correctly, obviously significant TCO benefits are going to come to the fore, but the impact goes way beyond. First, the benefits can be realized in terms of greater availability of business services to keep the enterprise running, right? It can help improve the end user experience by providing more contextual and then personalized support. Now, different end users might be using different applications, different devices. The idea is how can we provide very contextual support that is aligned to the time and location of where that user needs to be supported in the first place. AIOps can help make infrastructure provisioning much more agile and faster, helping enterprises develop and push applications and functionalities faster into the market. It's about also resolving tickets faster through leverage of existing knowledge and then using intelligent diagnostics. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier, completely eliminating potential incidents as well as improving business systems through proactive monitoring, through faster anomaly detection, as well as preemptive healing. So it's clear that the benefits of AIOps clearly transcends what we have been going through from a traditional automation perspective. But here's the catch. AIOps is just not a technology play, and there are multiple considerations that need to be kept in mind when we adopt this particular phenomenon. Firstly, the tech implementation needs to also be mirrored with a lean operating model. So the idea is we are going to reduce a lot of L1 and even potentially some of the L2 incidents. So this has to be mirrored within the operations team, wherein we have higher level L3 resources who are multifunctional, multi-domain, and that's where the real power of AIOps starts coming into the picture. Second, the idea is to bring in an end-to-end view to ITOps through a single pane of glass, and ensuring that there is end-to-end workflow orchestration and resolution for straight-through processing. The third requirement is the platform itself needs to be technology agnostic. The idea is to pull in data from discrete tools, discrete technologies that we have, And the idea is to act upon the centralized repository of data to really meaningfully drive operational efficiencies. So net of all, AIOps obviously stands to deliver significant impact within an enterprise. Now, while I've been sharing this at a theoretical level, we also wanted to bring this concept to life by actually examining some of the use cases that can be compared from a traditional automation and an AIOps perspective. So what we have done here is we have mapped some illustrative use cases across the entire IT operations value chain to really bring this to life. Let's talk about, say, user engagement, right, which is really the front-end touch point. So we have had chatbots with basic NLP for quite some time. But if you start applying analytics and AI, these chatbots can be made much more intelligent. They can be integrated wherein the resolutions can start happening through a single-click view. Based on looking at ticket data and ticket history and then doing a semantic search, we can start providing prescriptive recommendations to users, right? If you think of service desk again, now there's a lot of device and application data that can be collected using a lot of new technologies that are out there in the market for end-user analytics. AIOps can start bringing in a lot of context to this and then help prevent a lot of issues that come on devices, on applications, by making right interventions. And we can even start mapping a lot of common themes and challenges that end users face, and potentially drive a mass diagnosis and help reduce a lot of resolution time and effort. If you think of service management again, we know the amount of time service management operations folks end up spending for root cause analysis, for triaging tickets, and so on and so forth. AIOps as a concept helps bring a lot of alert correlation and analytics to significantly drive down the time that is required to really triage and then identify the root cause of incidents, and driving, again, to my earlier point, significant efficiencies within the system. And then so on and so forth, right? Again, let's think of monitoring and event management. It can help drive a lot of proactive application health checks, business process health checks, and then this helps reduce a significant amount of effort that could potentially have been invested in rectifying a lot of process inefficiencies by bringing it upfront in the value chain. Now, we have obviously observed a lot of enterprises and a lot of use cases wherein this concept has been brought to the fore. And to give some examples, right, on the incident reduction side, we have seen cases where traditional automation has helped reduce incidents by 20 to 30%. But with AIOps being brought into the picture, we have seen these numbers go up to even 40 to 50% in certain cases. If you start thinking about time to resolve tickets or MTTR, in traditional automation we have seen 10 to 20% being the reduction norm, whereas AIOps kind of taking this number up to even 40 to 60% in some cases. Consequently, even from a cost of operations standpoint, where 10 to 25% tends to be the norm, AIOps can start delivering much higher value to even to the extent of 30 to 50% when applied correctly. So clearly, there's a lot of leverage and a lot of benefits that stand to be delivered by AIOps. Now, as I mentioned, these have been some of the benefits that we have seen within enterprises. There are some key considerations to be kept in mind when you think of really measuring the holistic value and impact of AIOps as a concept. And to this light, we at Everest Group have built this basic framework that we'd like to take you through. So the first aspect is that the metrics that are being used need to be business focused, right? So the impact needs to be measured from the perspective of the overall business, internal users, the consumers. So the metrics should have a strong correlation between how IT infrastructure services has been delivered and its KPIs with relevant business performance dimensions as well. So let me give you a few examples to bring this to life. How about tracking what's the percentage improvement in real-time user experience, right? A second metric could be the availability of business applications. You can even start tracking things like reduction in revenue loss that is being caused by service downtime. So that kind of brings in a real business parlance to everything that we would like to achieve through AIOps. The second aspect is agility. Now, obviously, you want to bring in a lot of quick and responsive operations, and to my earlier point, also help drive a fail-fast approach within business operations. So some of the metrics that could be considered is, for instance, what's the kind of reduction that we are achieving within the root cause analysis of tickets, right? What's the kind of reduction that we are achieving in time to deploy new applications into the market? Taking an end user perspective, for instance, what is the reduction in time that we are able to achieve within onboarding employees? Now, those become a very powerful metrics which really bring the benefits of AIOps to life. The third aspect is security. So what we have seen is a lot of IT operations transformation happens, but security tends to be an afterthought. But AIOps can also be built in, and some of the metrics that can be used from a security and compliance perspective could be, for instance, tracking the amount of automated patching that's happening within the environment. How many incidents are being remediated through automation, for instance. So that becomes another powerful use case through AIOps. The fourth part is actually tracking what's the level of intelligence that's actually getting built within the IT operations landscape, right? So we could think of metrics such as, say, what kind of incidents are being remediated through self-heal, without any human touch points or without any hops that are happening, or the amount of ticket bouncing that's getting built into the entire system, and then so on and so forth. That becomes again a very useful metric in our opinion. And then finally, it's also about the users, both within the enterprise and within the broader clientele as well that you serve. So when you take a consumer-centric angle to all of this, you can start tracking some of the metrics such as how many incidents have been proactively resolved, how much time reduction is happening in terms of end-user issues that are cropping up, and even tracking basic metrics such as reduction in number of incidents per user per month. So the entire framework and the entire idea here is that while AIOps as a technology could be powerful, unless and until you have a proper framework and a proper set of metrics to really look at the impact that it's creating, you're not getting the bang for the buck in terms of the investments that you're making. And then in that effect, I also wanted to touch upon one final aspect of AIOps. It's in terms of how enterprises should think of the entire adoption journey for AIOps. So we get a lot of questions, for instance, whether it should be a big bang approach, whether this is a tool-centric conversation that we are having, what happens to governance, for instance, when we do AIOps, and so on and so forth. So this graphic that you see is what we believe could be an effective guide to drive AIOps adoption within your environment. So the first theme is, and what we advocate is a phased adoption approach. So the idea is to start implementing these initiatives after doing a robust as-is evaluation and driving some kind of prioritization based on use cases and then the kind of ROI that you're going to see. So we definitely do not advocate a big bang approach. Obviously, some of these systems tend to be complex. Some of the AIOps technologies tend to be complex while implementing. And then we advocate enterprises to really see this as an ongoing journey rather than putting all eggs in one basket. So that would be point number one. The second aspect is that you need to bring the entire ecosystem together. So the tool set needs to be rationalized. It has to be integrated in a centralized console and platform. And a single view needs to come in so that there's proper cross-collaboration across knowledge silos, the kind of data that's coming in from different sources, and you're able to make a lot of meaning out of the plethora of data points that you have across your IT environment. The third point is continuous governance, and this is very important in our opinion. There has to be a centralized capability in team. So this could be, for instance, an intelligent automation COE that you can set up. There could be a governance council but it's very important that you track the progress of these initiatives on an ongoing basis. And then there has to be a centralized authority which assumes accountability for outcomes. This can't be a one and done kind of a transformation in our opinion. Which also means that the knowledge within the environment needs to be managed in a very seamless fashion. There needs to be proper processes that are put across how knowledge, how best practices are being governed across the entire environment. Skills become very important. As I said, as we go into the AIOps realm, there's going to be a collapse between different towers of IT infrastructure services. So you're going to have to develop a lot of cross-functional skills. There's a lot of training and hiring that needs to be happening, and the entire operating model needs to rethink. All of this means there needs to be proper change management as well. Now, given the amount of overlap of IT and business imperatives that we are talking about here, it's very important that there's a lot of business user education that happens, and then this entire program can only be a success when there is a top-down business buy-in. This can't be done by IT alone. There has to be a proper senior management-led focus to kind of permeate this particular thinking and then bring the organization together and drive change management. And as I mentioned earlier, all of this needs to be prioritized based on value. It's about identifying the right set of use cases, putting a proper roadmap to make this scalable and bring this as a success. And my final point to this entire theme is that we have seen that obviously system integrators bring in a lot of value. So we see a lot of enterprises wherein they engage with system integrators who just not only have the technology know-how, but also have experience in some of these points, such as how to integrate ecosystems, how to drive governance, bringing in the right set of tools, and also being able to influence change management within enterprises. So we do believe system integrators can play a key role in this particular roadmap of yours. But overall, those are some of the points and key themes that we as Everest Group wanted to highlight on this particular topic. This is an exciting area, so we'd like to see how all of you progress on this particular dimension. So before I hand this off to Rajiv and Gabs to take us through their story and the kind of investments they are making to help enterprises out of AIOps, it would be a good time to have a second poll question, right? So as you think of AIOps and all the challenges that I talked about, what do you believe would be the biggest barrier for AIOps adoption within your own organization? Do you think the challenge management part is going to be the key deterrent? Do you think the lack of skills is going to be one of the key challenges? Do you think that standardization and streamlining internal processes and upfront planning is going to be a key challenge? Or do you believe that AIOps currently is kind of seen as a very siloed set of initiatives leading to a lot of sprawl within your environment? Now, obviously, you can have one or more of these challenges, so this is kind of a multiple select question. So we'll look forward to your inputs and debriefing on that. So again, we will give a few seconds for the audience to punch in their responses. Excellent. And it seems as though we have a broad mix and a broad agreement across multiple such themes. So clearly, it's very clear that many of you believe that the first and foremost thing is to actually set up a proper environment wherein processes are internally streamlined and standardized to get the real value out of AI implementation. And then at the same time, one of the challenges becomes that some of these initiatives tend to be really siloed, and it's about bringing in a central view and a central transformation lens to all of this to get value. Skills is obviously a challenge, as I mentioned earlier, that many organizations will face. So net of this, depending upon where you are in your adoption journey and how mature your internal IT environment is, it becomes very obvious that many of the key tenets and challenges that we mentioned is resonating with what you're going through. And with that, it's been a pleasure speaking to all of you. I'll hand this over to Rajiv now to take us through the gap story. Rajiv, over to you.
Hello, can you guys hear me? So thank you, Ashwin. Thank you, Ashwin. That was a very insightful information, and I can relate a lot of what you said on how AIOps is becoming the way forward. So definitely in line with the trends the industry is seeing. So with technology being at the forefront of the operations, it is nothing but natural that the status quo is going to be constantly challenged, throwing up a lot of opportunities where IT can really empower and disrupt the way the businesses are being managed. Hello and welcome to everyone. My name is Rajiv Khanna. I'm based out of GAPS, New York, and I'm part of the GAPS AIOps team. I'm very excited and happy to be here, and thank you again all for joining. In the next few minutes, I'd be talking about our AIOps platform. We have actually helped our customers in their digital journey. Before I actually get into the platform, I would like to touch base on what Ashwin already alluded to in the earlier part of the session and talk about the need for AIOps. So in this world of digital and IT transformation, we are seeing a significant shift in our experience working. There is a significant shift in the application architecture, the accelerated delivery of code that is going into the production, the proliferation of the data architectures, and the complexities around the virtualized and the multi-cloud technology. All of these different shifts is creating an unprecedented situation. And what is this unprecedented situation is doing, or what it is actually? So the unprecedented situation here is the enterprise setup for digitization is going through an exorbitant pace of innovation in the process and technology to support the digitization initiative. There is a dynamic behavior changes in the adoption of the virtualization and the cloud platforms, the need for the continuous availability and performances in these varied mix of IT ecosystems, and the more importantly, the time to market and the agility pressures that Ashwin alluded in the earlier part of the session are actually causing the applications to be architected around microservices that are capable to be released, allow multiple releases in a day. So gone are those days where you had a release every 6 months or every month. Right now, businesses are looking at multi-releases every day. For example, Facebook does about 500 release of their software code in a single day. So what it does is the management of the IT infrastructure or the IT ecosystem into the complexity is making monitoring the key factor of determining the health of your infrastructure system is a very, very huge problem. So what it happens is, with monitoring becoming a very huge problem, you would not get real insights into what is really happening in your environment, thereby inhibiting your ability to support business in a highly available environment. Well, it doesn't just stop with monitoring. The results of the monitoring now, because of our digitization and aspects and enabling the business, needs to be made relevant to these business constituents. So what is happening with this thing is you now are really required to monitor all the technologies and the different stack in a real time to detect quality issues, to proactively detect these issues. You need to be able to map the relationships, whether with the multiple systems, what talks to what is running on what, and how are these interconnections happening. How do we all do this? The answer to this is AIOps, and AIOps must be deployed to cope up with this deluge of the incoming monitoring data, and then use that technology to be able to understand the normal and the abnormal behaviors in your IT ecosystem, and then using that information using AI technologies to leverage an automated root cause and an automated fix of the solution. And GAP's AI platform is exactly built to address this situation, and that's what I would be talking about in the next few slides. So let's get directly into our platform, Zero Incident Framework. So what we mean as Zero Incident Framework, this is actually an AI-enabled end-to-end TechOps platform that addresses a key vision of any enterprise. And what is that vision? It is to run their IT incident-free. So we have heard zero defect software release, zero defect software. So we wanted to get that same logic and thesis into why not a zero defect infrastructure. When I say zero defect, in infrastructure or the environment, it is all incident. So that's where the Zero Incident Framework came into existence as part of our platform. So we really want the organization to drive towards a zero incident enterprise. How do we do it? What gets involved in doing this is what I will cover. But the basic thesis of this is to ensure that we are proactively able to identify and more importantly, predict the future state of these systems and devices so that we are able to identify and arrest problems at the beginning before it can start disrupting business in a negative way, and thereby you are able to minimize a lot of incidents before it actually happens, thereby leading to an aspirational zero incidents. So with that said, I would take you straight into our platform and its components. As you can see here in this illustrated slide, it is a comprehensive set of features that we have inbuilt into the platform. You could call it as multiple modules or products within a product, starting from your discovery, which is the discovery of your entire ecosystem, to monitoring, which is to monitoring your end-to-end enterprise, and then using the data that is ingested from various monitoring data, alerts, events, and various source of information from this complex ecosystem, and to be able to analyze using the AI algorithms and technologies to really understand and connect the dots between all these different information, sometimes millions of data elements that gets passed through in any ecosystem. How are we going to analyze and then correlate those information and be able to understand and predict and learn the patterns? That's where the analyze and the prediction part of the engine comes into play. So we are able to learn using the technologies and then put into force what we learned into an automated remediation, where it through either self-healing or an automatic workflow management, you are able to learn the anomalies and predict them, and more importantly, use outcomes to actually deliver the outcomes through automation. So let's get into the details of the Zero Incident Framework. So discovery. So when we talk about discovery, The platform provides a real-time automatic application discovery and dependency mapping that actually maps the whole infrastructure ecosystem, starting from your infrastructure layer to your application to microservices. You have a dynamically real-time updated dependency mapping that connects all these dots and presents you a topology view. This can then be updated into your CMDB or used for other aspects of your monitoring capabilities. So that's the discovery part of what we do. And the next component is the monitoring. So our platform can coexist with a lot of other monitoring tools, be it at the infrastructure layers or at the application performance management tools and various other data gathering aggregation softwares, whether it is log files, event management. We can coexist, but our monitoring tool either complements or supplements an already existing information, and we are able to capture more details around the parameters, monitoring parameters that are essential to track the health of your IT ecosystems. So we basically provide you the eyes and ears across the enterprise IT assets, all in a single pane of glass. So unlike other tools where you have separate infrastructure tools, separate tools for application monitoring, separate tools for managing specific aspects, we are able to integrate that into a single monitoring tool. Thereby, we are able to really look into the metrics and thresholds. And Ashwin's earlier topic around being able to manage and relate to the business objectives, we take that into account here through our application health index and user experience index codes. So what it does is, we just not tell you that the infrastructure is down or infrastructure is up, or the various resource parameters or the performance counters. So we are able to actually relate as to what an end user is experiencing with this application. Is he getting a typical response time? Is he getting an abnormal response time? Now, these response times are varying. It can be very slight difference that end users won't notice. Typical monitoring systems will not know until a system really starts degrading, which is either threshold based or rule based. But here we are able to on the fly monitor the transaction, and when there is a dip in the transaction, immediately our application index score and the user experience index changes, indicating proactively that something is wrong in the system, even though the end users are not impacted. It is really causing a huge problem or could cause a huge problem, which is a unique aspect of our monitoring tool. So we have discovered the layers. Those discovery layers are actually updated, and we are able to capture these discovered information into monitoring. So what do we do then? So this information that we have captured will be into the analysis module of our product. So what do we do in the analysis module of this platform is enterprise information coming from these enterprise systems are actually alerts, events, thresholds, logs, and whatnot. A huge, humongous volume of unsuppressed alerts and events are actually consumed or injected into the platform, and the platform is then able to understand, to be able to start analyzing and performing its trend analysis, event correlation, and then through that we are able to do a lot of noise reductions and false positive, thereby enabling this industry-wide issue of alert fatigue. So the key aspect of our analysis module that you need to take into account is the ability of us to actually consume unsuppressed alerts. So most of you would have heard, or you might be using, where you take your monitoring tool and tell them what to suppress and what not to suppress. And by this model, you may be missing some, thinking that you are arresting the noise. You may be really hiding the actual information that is helping you to understand a potential health issue of an application. But with our tool, we are able to actually consume all these alerts in an unsuppressed mode, and the event correlation and noise reduction and through false positives, we are able to automatically eliminate a lot of these incidents. Then comes your learning and prediction. So with learning and prediction, what we do is we use a lot of the AI-based algorithms, which are pattern specific. So we believe in the thesis that it is not an effective use of AI if you are not using pattern based. If you are just using alert based or threshold based, you are not really utilizing the power of AI. So our learning and prediction modules, we are actually learning thousands of patterns on the fly. There is no need of CMDB. There is no need of IT administrator information to teach the platform. The platform learns and unlearns the patterns and then pushes these patterns and information into the predictive algorithm module, so that all these intelligence that we have acquired, analyzed, and learned are used to predict a future state issue. The prediction could be, hey, down the line in another a week or 10 days, there is a potential that a particular system could go down. It could be because of resource contention issues, or it could be because of certain parameters that are showing anomalies, which probably could lead into that situation. So over a period of time, the predictive capabilities of the tool gets improving, and we are at a range where we can confidently say that our predictions are about 90% accurate in production environment after a period of about 4 to 6 weeks. And finally, what do we do with these predictive information? Again, you don't want to just depend upon human resolution for everything, and then we go into the remediation part. So the remediation part is actually the automated self-healing process, or the automation of workflows, the complex workflows, or the automation of standard operating procedures. The thesis here again is anything that is repeatable, we would be able to use our intelligent automation engine to be able to automate with zero to minimal human intervention. That in a whole slew explains our zero incident framework components. I would just spend another couple of minutes to talk about some of the outcomes that we have achieved with our tools. As you can see here, it's one of the biggest advantage or a USP that we are seeing here is a single pane of command. So when I say single pane of command, we are able to actually have a single pane of command that provides you the entire infrastructure with its pain points, what is working, what are some of the heat maps, the predictive performance index of all your application, the events, the correlated events, so that you are able to quickly look at what is happening and take actions. We do it for the customers. The reductions in incidents by proactively identifying is one of the key things. In our production deployments, we are seeing a consistent 40% reductions in incidents, and because of shift left, automation, and reduction of incidents, we are able to do the same operations with a much more leaner team, thereby directly helping you with your IT operations cost. So these are some of the outcomes, and this is how a digital infrastructure operations enabled by Ziff looks like. Your enterprise infrastructure is at the helm with your current tool universe, which is your existing monitoring ITSM tools, and zero incident framework connects to it to be able to provide you with the environment that is predictable, that is leading towards a zero incident, and more importantly, aligned to your business goals and helps the user experience improve. So with that, I will just move on to our final point of the presentation. This is a snapshot of our tools. As you can see here, we ourselves don't replace a lot of tools, but we integrate with a lot of ITSM tools, the operating system environment, infrastructure and application monitoring tools. So this is a current snapshot. We would be able to integrate and ingest data from literally any tool through either ODBC or connectors. With that, I'd like to summarize about our Ziff. That's the platform, and some of the typical use cases that we have been addressing for our customers is in the use cases that you see, whether it is in the environmental change tracker, dynamic bandwidth allocation. We are able to help in the automated phishing protection, eliminating human intervention, and obviously even correlation and noise reduction. I know we have come to the close of the webinar. I leave the floor open right now for any questions that we need to address.
Yeah, thanks, Rajiv. Request the attendees to type in your questions in the chat window. We will take up for the speakers to answer. We have the first question from the audience. So they're talking about, can you talk about AIOps in monitoring and how it will affect the data center operations? Rajiv?
Yes, Anand. I think the question is, what is the role of AIOps in monitoring and how it will affect data center operations, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so that the core of AIOps is to be able to look at the meaningful information that are coming out of your monitoring system, eliminates the noise or the digital dirt, and focus on only the alerts that the team needs to do. Manual way of doing this is time consuming and is not consistent. So introducing the AIOps to the monitoring will take you directly to the point of the problem and tell you where the problem is happening, so that efforts can be put on actually resolving the problem rather than identifying the problem. So it automatically helps you in your MTTR, which directly impacts your data center operations. Number one is being able to use the monitoring data to predict, so that the operations doesn't go down and you don't react to a problem. You are already geared up for the tomorrow. And the fact that you are able to eliminate a lot of false positives and even correlation, your root cause analysis becomes much more smarter and quicker.
All right. So next two questions points out to the outcomes of Ziff. So one question is on business outcomes from AIOps implementation, and the other question is, what have been the benefits companies have seen where they've implemented the zero incident framework AIOps platform?
Okay. So the question is, what are some of the benefits and outcomes that the customers have seen in our experience, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So predominantly, where we have deployed for one of a large consumer manufacturing company, they were actually receiving 20,000 suppressed alerts, and there was a team of about 25, 30 members in the digital NOC operations looking at parsing through those 20,000 alerts. With our platform inbuilt into their operations right now, the 20,000 alerts using event correlations and false positive elimination is converted. About 93% of that alerts are eliminated, and only 4,000 alerts, close to, I'm just giving a number, about 4,000 alerts, and those 4,000 alerts are also correlated. So thereby, number one, as I had repeated before, it is able to drastically reduce your time to resolve. And secondly, from a team to manage your infrastructure, we were able to reduce 50% of the operations team, and they can focus on the mission aspects of the infrastructure group rather than this. And the other aspect of automation is another key feature where we are able to do a lot of automation at the various levels, whether it is at the user onboarding experience. We are able to automate the entire user onboarding. We are also able to automate a lot of complex workflow process that can now automatically be integrated into the tool. So the monitoring tool, when it detects a problem, it was able to identify this is the workflow, and either through automation or inputs into the team, they can actually execute some of the tier 2 and tier 3 processes, thereby reducing the amount of time that they spend on fixing the problem. That's some of the things. And as I told, the single pane of command is a powerful tool for the CXOs and the managers, because they can, in one single pane, understand soup to nuts what is happening in their environment, and with heat maps and other aspects, they clearly know what is going to happen and what is happening.
Thanks, Ashwin. Ashwin, from your experience and interaction with the enterprises, what do you think customers have actually seen as an outcome from a typical AIOps implementation?
Yeah, sure. So obviously cost and operations efficiency is one part of it, but as I mentioned earlier, right, so some of the best ways in which enterprises have done this, you start tracking this in terms of, we've seen actual examples wherein clients have tried to push, applications faster into the market. So there's been 10-20% increase in the speed at which infrastructure is deployed. Because you obviously start correlating, you start seeing historical patterns, you start building in a lot of efficiencies within the provisioning part of it. So the entire speed to market and the percentage time that's taken to push applications, we're definitely seeing an improvement in that. The second part is real-time user experience, right? CSAT tends to be a very reactive kind of mechanism to measure end user satisfaction levels. But what we have seen is when you start applying these analytics to real-time user data, user application, device performances data, you are able to do a lot of intrusive kind of management, wherein devices can be stopped from breaking down, applications can be kept running even without the users knowing it. So there's a lot of inherent user experience improvements that I've seen. So a lot of examples, but as I mentioned, it aligns to the multiple metrics, and people have applied it correctly. I've seen practical improvements across the dimensions.
Yeah, thanks. We have one more question on the competition. So who do you see as your primary competition in the AIOps space, and how do you differentiate? And another question is, how do we differentiate zero incident framework from competitors? Rajiv?
Come again, Anand?
Who do you see as your primary competition in the AIOps space, and how do we differentiate zero incident framework from competitors?
Well, I don't want to get into the competition or competition space, but I can necessarily talk about some of the highlights on ZIF. So the key aspects there where we think that we can differentiate ourselves is, number one, we don't require a CMDB to do alert correlations and predictions. We are a pattern-based self-learning algorithm that are used to identify these learnings and insights, number one. Number two is we are the noise to insight ratio is about greater than 95% reduction, which is very, very, very unique, because that exactly directly translates into benefits and outcomes. The predictive capabilities in real time using some of the patented self-learning algorithms are really helping us with an accuracy of over 90%, which is again a very important thing. And then the unification of the fragmented IT operations rather than in silos, we are now able to get into an intuitive real-time operation dashboard that unifies the fragmented IT operation tools and workflows that can help reduce cost by 40 to 50%. And finally, we are able to fast forward into production with time being the new currency. We are able to get a tool implementation normally takes weeks, sometimes months. We are able to fast forward to production in as less than 2 to 5 days. These are some of the things. But as a VP of ITOps and products, one thing that really strikes is the concept of taking the IT infrastructure to a zero incident state, wherein which we are challenging the status quo by saying that incidents cannot happen in an infrastructure, and we are driving ourselves towards achieving that. So these are some of the things that I believe are helping us stay ahead, and some of our recent implementations have matured into a state where we have provided meaningful operational and business benefits. And our partnership with leading technical institutions like IIT Chennai, which is equivalent to the MIT in the US, we are able to partner with their artificial intelligence and robotics research group, and our algorithms and technologies are constantly being fine-tuned and improved. So it's only going to get better and better as we progress and become more compelling for organizations to focus on zero incident framework.
Okay, I know we have 3 minutes past our time, but there's one last question. With most applications being hosted out in cloud in today's world and does not have in-house data centers, how does AIOps help in monitoring these applications, transactions, or user experiences and react to these?
Well, again, very good question. So number one, the purpose of the AIOps is to eliminate the need, whether it is hosted or whether it is in the cloud, whether it is microservices. As long as you are able to gather the information that these different tools are ingesting or sending out across the infrastructure spectrum, you would be able to capture these data and be able to analyze and lot of meaningful insights. So the location or where the data sits is no longer a concern. As long as the data flows, the tool is capable of handling it. And as a platform, we are able to exist both in the cloud platform as well as on-premises to be able to capture this. Because this is pure agentless, you are only consuming the data, the millions of data points that are being generated in the infrastructure. So it's really agnostic whether it is in the cloud or on-premises.
Okay, one final question, probably you and you can take a look at it, Rajiv. We are a service, one of them has asked, we are a service provider. Can this be used to manage multiple customers that we host?
The answer is absolutely yes. We provide multi-tenancy, and we can definitely work with you to source multiple data and then containerize them and to apply to the various laws like high-tech, HIPAA, PCI, and whatnot. So definitely we can do that. And the amount of volume of data is never going to be a problem in this platform. we'd be more than happy to have a detailed session specifically to talk in details on how and what we can do there.
Yeah, with that, we'll come to the end of this webinar session. Thank you for attending this webinar. Thank you, Kerry, Ashwin, and Rajiv for giving this wonderful session on AIOps. For the attendees, if you have any more further questions, you can always mail it to us at inquiry@gapstech.com. We will be more than happy to share the clarifications on email back to you. And we'll be running more webinars on AIOps on ZIF and AIOps moving forward. Please feel free to attend them as well. Thanks again and have a good day. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.